Most dogs are trying to win you over from the moment you walk into the room. The tail starts moving. The eyes soften. The body leans toward you as if affection itself has weight. Then there's the Chow Chow, a dog that looks like it was designed to be hugged, but often acts like it's still deciding whether you belong in its world at all. For some owners, the first experience feels confusing, even unsettling. You bring home this living teddy bear expecting warmth, neediness, emotional openness. Instead, the Chow Chow watches you from across the room with an expression that feels almost human. Calm, reserved, evaluating. Not distant in the way fearful dogs are. Different, because the Chow Chow was never shaped to perform love the way modern companion breeds do. It's one of the oldest and most primitive dog breeds still living today. And primitive breeds tend to keep behavioral traits that existed long before dogs were bred primarily for emotional dependency on humans. Historically, Chow Chows guarded property, made decisions independently, and operated without constant human direction. They weren't designed to seek approval every second of the day. And that changes everything. Because what many people mistake for emotional coldness is often something far more complex: selective attachment, quiet loyalty, affection without performance. But to understand why this breed feels so emotionally different, you have to go back to the world that created it. Most people judge a dog's love by visibility. How excited are they when you come home? How often do they seek touch? How eager are they to please? But the Chow Chow comes from a completely different psychological blueprint. Long before modern dogs were shaped into emotional companions, breeds like the Chow Chow survived by thinking independently. They hunted, guarded property, pulled carts through harsh environments, protected temples and homes without needing constant instruction from humans nearby. That history still lives inside the breed today. You can see it in the way a Chow Chow enters a room and immediately scans the environment. Not nervously, systematically. Their attention often moves outward before it moves toward you. Windows, doors, movement, sound, positioning. Many owners mistake this for aloofness because it doesn't resemble the emotionally expressive behavior of modern companion breeds. But companion breeds were selectively developed for responsiveness. Over generations, humans rewarded dogs that constantly checked in emotionally. Dogs that watched faces closely. Dogs that reacted quickly to approval, affection, tone shifts, and social cues. The Chow Chow developed under different pressures. Its ancestors were expected to remain composed without reassurance, to make decisions without waiting for emotional guidance, to hold territory calmly instead of reacting impulsively. And that creates a dog that often feels startlingly self-contained, not emotionally empty. Self-contained. A Chow Chow may sit across the room instead of climbing into your lap. It may quietly observe instead of seeking constant interaction. Sometimes it will leave the room entirely after a few moments of affection, almost as if emotional closeness has a limit. To owners expecting a golden retriever trapped inside a fluffy lion's body, the experience can feel personal, like rejection. But in canine psychology, dependence and attachment are not the same thing. Some breeds display attachment loudly. The Chow Chow often displays it through presence, through watchfulness, through silent monitoring of your routines and environment. Many owners notice their Chow following them from room to room without asking for physical contact at all. That's the hidden shift that changes how you see them. The Chow Chow doesn't always express affection to receive emotional reward from you. Often, its behavior reflects responsibility instead. Observation, guardianship, controlled trust. And once you understand that, something else starts making sense too. Why living with this breed can sometimes feel emotionally confusing, even when the bond is strong. One of the hardest parts of living with a Chow Chow is this. They often love you in ways that don't feel like love at first. No dramatic greetings at the door. No constant demand for touch. No emotional theatrics designed to reassure you. And for owners raised around emotionally expressive breeds, that silence can hurt more than they expect. Because humans naturally look for visible confirmation of attachment. We want enthusiasm, eye contact, excitement, physical closeness. When those signals feel muted, the brain starts asking uncomfortable questions. Does this dog even care about me? But canine bonding styles are shaped heavily by genetics, and the Chow Chow's emotional communication tends to be restrained rather than performative. The breed often prefers controlled interaction over constant engagement. Affection happens on their terms, in measured doses, with clear boundaries around space and stimulation. That doesn't mean the attachment is shallow. In many cases, it's the opposite. A Chow Chow that trusts you may never become clingy, but it will quietly reorganize its world around your presence. You'll notice it slowly over time. The dog chooses the same room you're in, even if it stays several feet away. It positions itself where it can monitor entrances while still keeping you in sight. It follows without touching, watches without interrupting. Silent loyalty. And strangely, that subtlety is exactly why many owners miss it. Some spend months believing their chow is emotionally detached, only to realize later the dog had been tracking their routines constantly, waiting near doors before they arrived home, staying alert when strangers approached, resting only after the household settled. Not expressive attachment, protective attachment. The problem is that many humans respond to this emotional restraint by pushing harder for visible affection. More hugging, more forced cuddling, more physical interaction the dog never asked for. With a Chow Chow, that pressure can create the exact opposite of closeness. Because trust for this breed depends heavily on autonomy. When they feel emotionally crowded or controlled, withdrawal becomes a form of self-protection, not punishment. Distance. And once owners understand that, the relationship often changes completely. The dog that once felt cold suddenly starts looking thoughtful, intentional, quietly devoted in ways easy to overlook unless you know what to watch for. If you've ever had a dog that showed love in strange, subtle, almost human ways, this is probably the moment you recognized it. The silent shadowing, the watchful staring from across the room, the need to stay near you without needing to touch you. That's not absence of affection. It's a different language for it. And with Chow Chows, that language becomes even more complicated the moment trust is damaged. There's a moment many Chow Chow owners experience that they never forget. You correct the dog too harshly once. Raise your voice during frustration. Force a physical interaction it clearly resisted. And afterward, something changes. Not explosively, quietly. The dog becomes more distant, more cautious, more watchful around you, as if a line was crossed that cannot simply be erased with treats and affection the next day. Because Chow Chows often carry an unusually strong emotional memory tied to trust, predictability, and personal boundaries. And primitive breeds, in particular, tend to respond poorly to coercion-based relationships. This is where many misunderstand the breed completely. People see resistance and label it stubbornness. They see withdrawal and assume dominant struggles. But in canine behavioral science, predictability is deeply connected to emotional safety. Dogs feel secure when interactions make sense to them, when leadership feels stable instead of emotionally volatile. The Chow Chow notices inconsistency fast, not because the breed is calculating in a human sense, but because survival-oriented dogs evolved to monitor environmental reliability constantly. Tone changes, energy shifts, physical pressure, emotional unpredictability. And when trust weakens, the breed often doesn't react with dramatic appeasement behaviors the way softer companion breeds might. It hardens. Some Chow Chows become emotionally withdrawn. Others become oppositional. Some begin guarding space more intensely or resisting handling they once tolerated comfortably. That's why punishment-heavy training methods can damage this breed so deeply. Force may temporarily suppress behavior, but it often erodes relationship quality underneath. The dog stops feeling safe enough to cooperate willingly. What remains is compliance built on tension instead of trust. And tension always leaks out somewhere. This is also why relationship-based training tends to work far better with Chow Chows than old dominance frameworks. Clear boundaries matter. Structure matters. Calm leadership matters. But respect matters most. Because this breed is constantly evaluating whether the human beside it feels emotionally controlled, fair, and trustworthy under pressure. That realization changes the entire ownership experience. You stop trying to overpower the dog emotionally. You stop interpreting every hesitation as defiance. Instead, you begin noticing how sensitive the Chow Chow actually is beneath the composed exterior. Not fragile, sensitive to integrity. And that emotional seriousness explains something else people often get wrong about this breed, the reputation that follows it everywhere. The suspicion, the guarding, The aggression people warn you about before they've ever even met your dog. Few dog breeds carry a reputation as heavy as the Chow Chow. People describe them as aggressive, dangerous, unpredictable, and sometimes owners begin fearing their own dog before they fully understand what they're looking at. But the reality is often more nuanced and far more uncomfortable for humans to admit. Because Chow Chows are not naturally built for endless social openness. This breed was shaped to guard territory, monitor unfamiliar activity, and stay emotionally cautious around outsiders. That doesn't automatically create aggression. It creates selectivity. A Chow Chow usually wants time before trust. The problem is that modern dog culture often treats friendliness as the definition of good behavior. We praise dogs that eagerly approach strangers, tolerate constant touching, and remain socially available in every environment. The Chow Chow rarely fits that mold. Many become overstimulated by chaotic greetings, crowded environments, invasive handling, or repeated pressure from unfamiliar people trying to interact physically. And when the dog communicates discomfort subtly at first, looking away, stiffening posture, closing the mouth, slowing movement, avoiding touch, humans often miss the warning signs completely. Then comes the escalation, and suddenly the dog gets labeled aggressive. But there's an important behavioral distinction here. Fear aggression usually comes from panic and insecurity. Territorial control comes from guarding space or social boundaries. Emotional overstimulation happens when the dog's coping threshold collapses under too much pressure. With Chow Chows, those categories can look similar from the outside, even though the emotional cause underneath is completely different. That's why proper socialization for this breed is not about forcing friendliness. It's about building calm confidence. A well-socialized Chow Chow does not need to adore every stranger in the room. It needs to feel stable, secure, and capable of observing the world without perceiving constant threat or intrusion. That distinction matters enormously, because when owners stop demanding performative sociability, they often discover their dog was never bad at all. The dog was communicating boundaries in the only language it had. And honestly, there's something strangely respectable about that. The Chow Chow doesn't hand out trust recklessly. It studies people. It watches energy. It decides carefully who enters its emotional circle. That caution can create difficult dogs in the wrong hands. But in the right environment, it creates something else entirely. A companion with profound emotional discernment. A dog that bonds slowly, seriously, and with remarkable depth once safety is established. And hidden underneath all that control, all that guarded restraint, is the part most owners never see coming. The softness. The hidden truth about Chow Chows is not that they struggle to love. It's that they treat love like something serious, something earned. That's the psychological trait most people misunderstand from the beginning. A Chow Chow does not scatter attachment everywhere it goes. Primitive breeds often form selective social bonds, choosing carefully where emotional vulnerability feels safe enough to exist. And because that trust develops slowly, the signs can become almost invisible to people expecting loud affection. But once you know what to look for, the entire breed changes in front of you. The Chow Chow sleeping deeply beside your chair instead of monitoring the room. The dog resting with its back exposed near you. The slow blink. The softened posture. The decision to remain near you even when nothing is being offered in return. Those moments matter enormously, because vigilance is natural to this breed. Environmental monitoring is part of how it moves through the world. So when a Chow Chow relaxes completely in your presence, something profound is happening psychologically. The dog has decided you are safe enough to stop guarding against. And for a breed this emotionally controlled, that level of trust carries weight. This is why their affection can feel so different from other dogs. It isn't built on constant reassurance or emotional display. It's built on selective vulnerability, quiet consistency, presence without performance. The Chow Chow may never become the dog that throws itself dramatically into your arms every morning, but it may become the dog that watches over your home in silence. The dog that keeps track of your movements without needing attention. The dog that trusts you enough to let its guard down in a world it naturally approaches with caution. And once you understand that, the emotional distance people talk about starts looking a lot more like devotion, just spoken in a quieter language. The Chow Chow was never meant to be everybody's dog. And maybe that's exactly why the people who understand this breed never forget it. Because behind the still expression and guarded posture is not an emotionally empty animal. It's a dog carrying thousands of years of instinct built around caution, independence, territorial awareness, and selective trust. A primitive mind in a modern living room. And once you stop expecting emotional performance, the relationship starts revealing itself differently. You notice the quiet following, the constant awareness of where you are, the way the dog settles only after checking the environment one last time, the calm watchfulness that never fully switches off unless it feels safe beside you. That isn't emotional absence. It's deliberate attachment. The Chow Chow chooses people slowly, carefully, sometimes so subtly that owners spend years underestimating how deeply the bond had already formed. But when that trust finally exists, it carries an unusual kind of weight. Not loud, not dramatic, not endlessly demanding, steady. And maybe that's the strange beauty of this breed. Some dogs spend their lives trying to convince you they love you. The Chow Chow simply watches over the people it has chosen and expects you to learn the difference. Because sometimes the deepest loyalty is also the quietest.